Hello and welcome to Morning Brief Market Sunrise. I'm Ramzan Karmali, live from Yahoo Finance's studios in London. It's Wednesday, 12th November. Coming up on the show, the House is getting ready for a vote that could end the longest ever shutdown on record. AMD shares are on the rise in the pre-market as it ups its outlook. And Yahoo Finance Invest kicks off tomorrow. We'll be getting key insights from leading names in AI, crypto and much more. Our executive editor Brian Sozzi joins me later to tell us more. So grab your coffee and let's own the morning. Well, the first thing you need to know, and that is that the House could vote later today to end the government shutdown. The US government could reopen as soon as the end of this week after the Senate on Monday evening passed a spending bill that has since moved to the House of Representatives for a final vote, expected to take place this afternoon sometime after 5 p.m. Eastern. But don't forget, those flight disruptions won't go away immediately if that vote passes. Airlines have warned that transportation woes are likely to linger. Meanwhile, tonight, the president will host financial industry executives for a dinner. JPMorgan boss Jamie Dimon is expected to attend. The next thing you need to know is that AMD reckons its data center sales will soar by 60% over the next 3 to 5 years. Its shares are up in the pre-market, as you can see now. Now, data center revenue right now is $16 billion. But the company is making a much stronger push into the AI space and is looking to steal market share from rival Nvidia. The final thing you need to know is that after that Nvidia sale, SoftBank shares are sliding. As much as 10% at one point. Those shares did recover somewhat in Tokyo, but it was still a pretty bad day for the Japanese conglomerate. Remember, it sold its entire stake in Nvidia for $5.8 billion and has bet big on ChatGPT owner OpenAI. It's also buying chipmaker Ampere in a $6.5 billion deal and has agreed to buy the robotics business of Swiss group ABB for $5.4 billion. But it isn't alone in making big investments and projections when it comes to AI. Just this morning, Germany's Infineon raised its sales forecast for chips used in AI data centers, and Nvidia supplier Foxconn said revenue from AI server production would almost double. Well, there's plenty of other things you need to watch out for today. Here's Josh Lipton.
All right, time now for what to watch Wednesday, November 12th. Going to start off on the earnings front. Got a lot of big names reporting on Wednesday, including Circle, On Holdings, and Cisco. Cisco announced the results for the first quarter after the markets close, and I was expecting the company's earnings to come in a little light this quarter because of the federal government shutdown and higher parts costs. But demand for networking gear is still solid, and AI-related upgrades should keep long-term growth on track. Taking a look at the Federal Reserve, we're going to be getting a big batch of Fed commentary on Wednesday. Investors will be listening closely for any clues about the Fed's path forward with monetary policy as it gears up for its last FOMC meeting of the year in December. And finally, we may be coming to the end of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, the Senate approving a funding measure on Monday to reopen the government, the bill now being sent to the House for a vote, which could happen as early as Wednesday. Well, we're nearing a big day here at Yahoo Finance, our annual Invest event. It's this Thursday, November 13th, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern from our New York City studios. Got a special full day of live global coverage of the key themes driving the market, AI, crypto, and much more. With the top people in corporate America you'll want to hear from. Questions for our esteemed guests are now open and flown in on the Yahoo Finance community channel right at the top of our homepage. Some of the questions we have already gotten are awesome. Keep them coming. And don't miss Yahoo Finance Invest live all day on Thursday, November 13th. Save the date and tell your friends.
Well, we're going to focus on some earnings now. And first up, On Holdings Q3 results have topped forecasts. And just look at what that's done to its share price in the pre-market. Up there, nearly 9%. The company also raised its full-year outlook, with the CEO saying sales momentum is strong heading into that crucial holiday period. Now, the Swiss-based sportswear firm now expects net sales to be up at least 34% year over year. Its revenue over Q3 came in at $993 million, with earnings per share of 54 cents. Okay, next up, Circle Internet Group. It's reported Q3 revenue that exceeded expectations. The amount of its USDC stablecoin in circulation more than doubled from a year ago to around $75 billion now. Revenue was up 66% to $740 million. Remember, Circle only went public in June and its share price rocketed soon after it launched that IPO. Now, but just last quarter, remember, Circle reported a net loss of $4.48 per share, so quite a turnaround. And finally, the Apple and Nvidia supplier Foxconn is reported as well. The Taiwanese company is the world's largest contract electronics maker, and its profits topped estimates amid robust AI server business, and it expects a strong year ahead as AI computing demand continues along its, well, frankly, explosive path. The company in the past has been best known for assembling Apple's iPhones, but it also makes AI servers for both Nvidia and Amazon. It's also revealed that it will now collaborate with OpenAI too. Okay, we're heading for a short break, but our executive editor, Brian Sozzi, joins me next. He'll tell you what to expect from Yahoo Finance Invest. You won't want to miss what he has to say. Stay tuned. Okay, you may have noticed we've been building up to something big on Yahoo Finance. Our annual Invest event, a full day of special programming where we'll hear from all industry's sharpest business and financial minds. And I've got the pleasure to welcome our executive editor, Brian Sozzi, onto the show, who's going to give us a glimpse as to what to expect tomorrow. Welcome, Brian. Well, let's start off. In a nutshell, how would you describe Invest to anyone who's been living under a rock?
A mind-blowing celebration of investing for all investors, Ramzan, and that's what we're going to get here. I mean, so many themes: AI, crypto, economy, a full day of coverage to help the investor base. Also, Ramzan, out of the three categories that I mentioned, of course, AI, crypto, and the economy. I mean, the guest list is absolutely off the charts here. We have Affirm CEO Max Levchin, Alexis Ohanian, even going to talk to how AI is impacting financial services with eToro co-founder and CEO Yoni Assia. Crypto, of course, a big topic. We've seen Bitcoin well off its highs. So I'm very curious to hear what Michael Saylor, the Bitcoin king, is doing with all things Bitcoin at this critical juncture. I suspect he's buying more, Ramzan. And of course, the economy. We're going to have former Fed Governor Lael Brainerd, Robert Smith, and Mohamed Al-Arry. I'm really looking forward to talking to Mohamed about how he sees AI impacting the economy and what he sees as pertains to what's next on the Federal Reserve and potential rate cuts next year.
Well, talking about Fed rate cuts and Mohamed Al-Arry, and he'll be featuring on our show before the main event kicks off at 8 a.m. Eastern. In terms of the economy and going forward, what are the main things that you're really concerned about? I mean, obviously the Fed and rate cuts is quite high up there, but what do you see in terms of tariffs and whether that's having an impact yet on the economy?
The biggest thing I am worried about, Ramzan, and I suspect a lot of the guests will talk about this, it is the impact of AI on the U.S. labor market. And there was a story in the FT today about how Vista Equity Partners, Robert Smith, who's also going to be a guest at Invest, plans to use AI to reshape how many workers he has in his business. So if you think that AI is not going to impact how the economy and how much productivity has, I mean, you're just wrong. I mean, back offices throughout many companies are getting absolutely eviscerated. So many CEOs I talk to, Ramzan, are implementing AI to replace workers. I mean, it's a tough topic. Nobody likes talking about it, but the humans, they need to be worried. And I think everybody has to be using AI, because if they're not, they're at risk of losing their job.
Yeah, AI is certainly a big theme. And also, how do humans work alongside these AI agents as well? How's that going to develop? I think that's something interesting I think we could also probe into. I mean, let's go back to crypto as well. I mean, it's, as you said, massive swings in crypto since October as well. We've seen, down below, hitting that 100,000 mark, now back up a little bit. I mean, it's crazy where we've come from, but it's something that, President Trump is definitely behind, is the crypto universe. So we can only grow stronger, you'd think, right, Brian?
Yeah, this has been the year that crypto, Ramzan, has gone mainstream in the U.S. I mean, the regulatory outlook has changed drastically under President Trump compared to President Biden. Having said that, there is still this thought amongst many that Bitcoin goes to zero. There's still this lack of trust in the industry. Now, you talk to folks like Michael Saylor, has been like as we are going to do and invest. He has been aggressively buying Bitcoin for years. I mean, he holds billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin on his balance sheet. So we're going to ask Michael what he's doing next on Bitcoin in light of the self. But also, you look at a company like Robinhood, co-founder and CEO Vlad Tenev will be at Invest. Crypto has benefited the top and bottom lines of his business significantly this year, and it is in large part why the stock is up, I believe, almost up 300% the year to date. I mean, it has had a tremendous run, in part because of the crypto gains.
Yeah, and crypto is certainly having an impact on our stock markets, that's for sure. And generally, overall, when you look back tomorrow, what are the key learning points you think investors will take away from Invest?
I hope they take away, one, they're going to have a lot more insight into all things AI, a lot more insight to the economy. Now, keep in mind, in the U.S., we have not gotten any economic data. I mean, you want to count ADP, you want to count Challenger and Gray data, fine. We haven't gotten any government data in a month. I think we're going to get some great snapshots into the real, true, healthy economy. I mean, Delta CEO Ed Bastian, I'm sitting down with him at Invest. I'll get a read on the U.S. consumer look through the prism of holiday travel, so that is very important. But I hope they come away with this. At the end of the day, given all the chats we're going to have, Ramzan, it is the rise of the retail investor. And look, I know the institutional investor is still the straw that stirs the drink in global markets. I mean, they have the money. But the retail investor, their time is now. They're influencing stocks. And I just hope that management teams start to pay a lot more attention to them because they deserve to be paid attention to.
Brian, you're certainly right about that, and retail investors. In fact, very recently we heard from the boss of AstraZeneca, and why they're listing on New York was to get to those retail investors. So certainly, I think you've definitely got a point there, Brian, and we can't wait for tomorrow and Invest. So thank you so much for joining us on Market Sunrise. But unfortunately, we have to head for another break, but we'll be back with trending tickers, and including a very closer look at CoreWeave. All right, time to look at the stocks trending right now, and we'll dive into chips, crypto miners, and one shiny stock in the space trade. Starting with AI infrastructure and the latest on CoreWeave. After its post-earnings slide, CoreWeave closed down more than 16% yesterday. Well, it's rising in the pre-market, looking set to recover some losses. But actually, it's only up now around 1%. Remember, the cloud accelerator for generative AI gave a weaker than expected outlook. Sorry, just up 2% now. So investors are taking profits after a run that had pushed shares up more than 125% year to date. On the other end of the AI chip trade this morning, Nvidia's German partner, Infineon Technology. The stock is rising on Q4 results that were roughly in line with expectations. But importantly, Infineon highlighted the growth of its sales of chips for data centers, even as it copes with a slowdown in the automobile sector. With Nvidia, Infineon is developing a new generation of power delivery for data centers. Moving to pharma now, and the obesity drug trade continues, and we saw major players closing up yesterday. Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, and Pfizer all sharply in the green following the end of the bidding war between Novo and Pfizer for Metsera. Novo lost that battle, but investors seem to be liking it after a months-long slide. There are signs of a comeback. Meanwhile, Eli Lilly, well, it's simply continuing on its seemingly unstoppable rise, at least for now. Now, there's a recently formed cohort of stocks that have been on a particularly volatile ride. Crypto miners turned AI players are again seeing mixed action in pre-market. BitDeer is recovering some of yesterday's losses after a disclosure showed stablecoin company Tether has sold about 20% of its stake in the company. CleanSpark and TerraWolf are also lower. CleanSpark, after announcing a new convertible notes offering, investors have been rotating in and out of the group as they try to figure out whether they can really succeed this pivot into AI computing power providers. Well, let's head to space now, and Rocket Lab Corporation remains front and center of market action. After slightly beating estimates in its earnings earlier this week, the space launch services company is benefiting from several analysts raising their target prices and maintaining a buy rating, as many are bullish that commercial and government demand for satellite launches and other space services will continue to grow.
People are excited about the backlog that they've been able to continue to build. There's been some happy customers, not just in the US, but also abroad for this company. And over the last 2 years or so, the company has also been on an M&A kind of strategy as well. So not just launch, but what else can we do for potential clients? So looking at building out satellites or satellite capabilities for clients as well has allowed them to hopefully weather different types of storms, because many space companies, some are just focused on government. And if the government's not there to spend, that's a huge issue. But for a company that's able to continue to diversify, it puts them in a pretty interesting position where right now they do have a functioning rocket where they can send customer payloads to space with Electron, but also looking forward to Neutron, where they can start hopefully winning some even larger contracts due to the larger payload that this rocket will hopefully be able to provide for customers.
And the company's revenue, which as we're showing on screen, was a record, was also up by 48% because of Electron, because of sending all those satellites into space. But let's talk about Neutron a little bit here. Is it a concern for you that they're delaying it again?
Part of it is you need to make sure that when you're sending things to space that you know what you're doing and that you're doing it safely. And having a failure at launch can be an expensive proposal as well and can also set you back, while at the same time you can glean different insights as well. Now, Rocket Lab is seemingly taking an approach where they want to figure out these potential problems before they launch. And so it sounds like this is now getting pushed out to maybe sometime mid-time next year. They're going to start shipping the components that they need over to Virginia to the launch pad in Q1. But the first launch will be without a payload and not to land as well. The second attempt, they're hoping to be able to land the rocket. So this could continue to get pushed out, but at the same time, the company believes that they've got the balance sheet to continue this, and they see this as the future and not necessarily completely replacing everything that they've done before, but being able to also provide, again, diversified types of launch for different types of clients. So it's something that I think people are excited about as far as investors in the company, because they think that these larger contracts will help put the company in an even more rarefied air as far as competition goes. But it's something that doesn't necessarily need to happen today, because the company is showing a strong success and track record, and they're bordering on setting a new record for launch this year.
Well, the travel sector has been hitting turbulence in recent days because of the shutdown, and that is now highlighting a fundamental question just ahead of Thanksgiving. Is the boom of the travel sector over? It's a massive chunk of the economy if you include airlines, services, hospitality, plane makers, and other adjacent industries. So there's one report out today that's flashing warning signs. Deloitte says that planned holiday trips among US consumers has fallen to an average of 1.83, down from 2.14 a year ago, while planned travel budgets are down about 18% to roughly $2,334. It's more than a casual pullback from vacation hype. It signals deeper changes in habits. Even high-income households, those earning over $100,000, are saying they're financially worse off and are opting for cheaper travel options. And not surprisingly, the report points out that the shutdown is exacerbating these trends. The risk here is that the slowdown in travel triggers a ripple effect across hotels, restaurants, airports, rental car agencies, and tourism-heavy areas. This comes at a time when many businesses are already operating against inflation, labour constraints, and higher import costs linked to tariffs. In short, there's a big risk of ripple effects spreading across the economy. So if we just look at all the disruptions caused by the shutdown, how much is this costing the economy exactly? Well, economist Daniel Altman shared his answer with my colleague Julie Hyman.
It is the longest one we've had, and also because of some of the dynamics between consumers and the government's contractors during this period. We have a situation where there are a lot of federal workers who aren't sure if they're ever going to get paid the money that they would have been owed for this period. So that's a drag on consumer demand. We also have a situation where the companies that do business with the government aren't necessarily getting paid. If you do that for 6 weeks, you're basically dropping about 2% of gross domestic product if the government's not paying any of its contractual obligations over that period. So I'm not saying that we've dropped 2%, but that's the maximum that we could drop within this period. And that would essentially wipe out our economic growth for this year. So the other thing to worry about in this situation is the kinds of commerce and business activity that cannot be recovered. In usual shutdowns that are shorter than this, we expect that whatever gets postponed during the shutdown will just get caught up later on. And economists tend to think that shutdowns don't make a big difference to the economy and growth. But we've seen situations here now where there is stuff that can't be recovered. We have flights that have been canceled. Those flights are never going to get flown again, right? That's money that the airlines are not getting unless they manage to jack up the prices on other seats enough to cover it. And there are other things like licensing and permitting where we can't have as much trade, we can't have as much commerce simply because those goods can't get off the boats in time because the offices are closed. And so when we start to lose those things, because the shutdown has been so long and there's so much uncertainty attached to it, that's when we have real economic damage.
Okay, before we go, let's have a look at the markets. Let's start with Asia. And now the Nikkei was up despite that big fall I told you about from SoftBank earlier, and well, tech strength actually helped the Nikkei and stocks across the region. Japan's manufacturers also got a bit of a yen-fueled lift. Now the currency there, Japan's currency, fell to a 9-month low, so making those stocks more attractive. Okay, let's move on to Europe, and European stocks in the main opened higher this morning. You can see the FTSE slightly down there. Now they're sort of the positive momentum we've seen in Europe is kind of on hopes that the US government shutdown will end pretty soon. The FTSE down there, but it's actually earlier hit another record high, so perhaps a little bit of profit taking there. And finally, let's have a look at how Wall Street will open later on. And US stock futures are on the rise as Wall Street digests sort of a rotation out of those big tech into more defensive corners of the markets we saw yesterday. And as we all wait for that key House vote that could end the longest government shutdown in US history, we're expecting that vote to begin around 5 p.m. Eastern time today. Okay, that is it for Market Sunrise for this morning. Stay with Yahoo Finance for continuing live coverage of the markets and your money all day on streaming and online. The next time I see you, it'll be Invest. So see you tomorrow morning in the same place for an epic day of original programming. Coming up next, join Julie Hyman ahead of the market open on Morning Brief. I'm Ramzan Karmali. Go own the morning.